What is going on, you guys? My name is Cody Thixton, and this is Interesting Podcast. Coming to you guys on February 11th, 2023 for episode 26, where tonight we have our very first episode with our guest host, Antonio, and I will introduce him to you guys here in just 1 minute. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload comment or content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Let's get right into this. Welcome, everybody, and welcome my very best friend, Antonio. Antonio, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for doing this with me. This is going to be lots of fun.
Oh, yeah, dude, of course. Yeah, me and Antonio actually met at a convenience store, just randomly ran into each other.
Yeah.
Amazing. In a small town of Monmouth, Oregon, just two people that absolutely love pro wrestling just happened to cross paths.
Yeah, man. I know it's pretty cool. You don't usually see people with pro wrestling t-shirts, so when I seen you with one on, I had to talk to you, you know?
yeah, especially, and it was like instant too, you know, because I think you were wearing a New Japan Pro Wrestling t-shirt.
I know, man. Isn't that awesome? Like, we're like, hell yeah.
Yeah, like he's got to be such a big pro wrestling fan to be watching New Japan. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's awesome, bro. So let's start off right up at the top, man. So how long have you been watching pro wrestling?
Dude, okay, so I've been watching wrestling my whole life, but I was born in 1988, and as far back as I can remember, I've been watching pro wrestling. I started watching with my mom. She got me into it because she watched it. She'd watch it with my dad, and they'd go to shows every once in a while. She got me into it from a super young age, and as I grew up, I got more and more into it. I watch it every week. I wouldn't miss a week. I mean, when the Monday Night Wars were going on, I would watch one and record the other one. And then the next day after school, as soon as I could, I'd watch what I recorded, you know, try not to get any spoilers.
Over again.
Maybe it's going
to... It's all good.
Start another episode, sweetie.
Parents, though. Parents.
Yeah, right.
All good, man. All good.
It'll start another episode, okay? Can you let me do this, please? All right, go, baby. All right.
So anyway, going back to watching it in the 90s, is it weird to kind of go throughout like all of those years and then like kind of like watching it like transform into like what we see today? You know, because
yeah, it is really weird, dude, because honey, hey, baby, what? Can you let me talk to my friend for a little bit? Thank you. Yeah, so watching it in the 90s, it was at an all-time high, and watching it even at a young age, I knew it was at an all-time high because, I mean, everyone was talking about it in school. You'd see people wearing wrestling t-shirts walking down the street. Every once in a while, you might hear people talking about it. I mean, you could make references to people. They know what you're talking about. And I grew up in those years. I'm from San Francisco, California. So from 88 until 2000 is when I moved to Oregon. And the weird thing is, right around 2002, I'd say, I stopped watching wrestling. And it got... You know, I was growing up. I was like 14 probably when I stopped watching. I was in high school. It wasn't the cool thing anymore. No one, like, people were starting to like make fun of me for wearing a wrestling t-shirt every day. You know what I mean? Like, I was getting into different things. So I stopped for a long time, but I'd always kind of keep my ear to it and see what was going on. And when I noticed it went to the PG era, I mean, I thought it was done. I thought wrestling was over. You know what I mean? Because all I watched back then was WWF and WCW. And then when it became WWE, short time after that, WCW folded. You know, where I was at, I could never see ECW. I didn't even really know about any other wrestling promotions. when let's see, up until about 2016 is when I got back into it.
Yeah.
And that I started. I didn't want to get back into it because I knew I was gonna dive in head first. You know what I mean? And be
Mhm.
so dedicated like I was once before. But I'd say that I'm just as much or even more into it now than I was back then. Just by, I mean, with the internet now, I didn't have the internet as a kid, so being an adult with the internet, look at whatever you want, and there's so many
Yeah.
different wrestling websites, and YouTube was a big thing of getting me back into it. I started seeing like shoot interviews and
Mhm.
started learning about all the backstage craziness that would go on. So I've read a couple books and just really opened my knowledge to the sport, and it's great.
Yeah, dude, I think that that is definitely a perspective that I definitely share. Is that like it is a lot more better to get into it now than it was back then.
Yeah.
Like especially with what you said, like having the internet. Because when I started watching was in 2005. And
Okay.
I think in like fourth or fifth grade, and I would run to the library after school so that I could get a good computer so that I can go and look up, wrestling history or videos or look or watch highlights from Monday Night Raw because I didn't have cable back then,
Yeah.
and Monday Night Raw was on cable.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. I just feel like that is something that is definitely better now, especially like we can actually like go and buy our own tickets to
Yeah.
go see wrestling. You know what I
Right.
mean? Instead of like
Yeah.
having to ask our parents or
Yeah.
feeling bad for asking them. You know what I mean? Like,
And you're right. The accessibility nowadays is it's so much better with the internet, and I mean having a phone with access. You could look up whatever you want at any time. There's a lot more ways to find out about shows. I mean, I remember back in the day when I would go to wrestling shows, you would have to see like a commercial for it on TV, you know,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
it's just so different now, and it's changed for
Hmm.
the better, most definitely. But yeah, dude, it's it's really cool how many different just things there are about it out there. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we were just sitting there talking about you, not no longer watching pro wrestling.
Yeah.
You said in like the early 2000s. Um, Mine was in 2015. I didn't stop watching pro wrestling. I stopped watching WWE, and
Okay.
I did it for like 3 years. And I actually came back at SummerSlam in 2018 and
Okay.
started watching WWE again. Um, but for like the reason why I stopped watching WWE was because like obviously back then their creative was just not good.
No.
It was not good at all. I mean, with Jason Jordan, like he did really really good with Chad Gable in a tag team.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the American Alphas they did awesome,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They were.
But when Jason Jordan kind of had that storyline with Kurt Angle, where he was Kurt Angle's son and whatnot,
Yeah.
in the main WWE Championship storyline, Kurt Angle was in the ring cutting a promo, and Jason Jordan walks out onto the stage and is like, "Hey, Dad." Like asking for a WWE Championship title match. And like, I legitimately turned off my television and didn't watch WWE for 3 years. I
You
was
can't
so
do this
pissed off
anymore. Yeah.
because it's like, why have that
Hmm.
as main championship storyline?
Yeah. Right.
I could not get behind it.
It's pretty. Yeah. No, it definitely got ridiculous, and I think one of the main things that changed was with WWE, especially becoming as big as it did. It's a publicly traded company. It has been corporate forever now, and they have guys in creative that didn't grow up wrestling fans.
Hmm.
They have guys writing storylines that are have only experience in Hollywood or writing TV shows, or they don't the only knowledge they have of the product is when they got the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you could just tell. I mean, there's definitely some really bad stuff out there, but luckily, I mean, I like it so much. I watch the good and the bad. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I can't get enough. But yeah, dude, getting back into it, when I stopped for that long period of time, I so in 2016, I had a lot of time on my hands. I was honestly, bro, I was in a deep depression, and one of the things, one of the only things that brought me any kind of joy or happiness was watching wrestling. And I was getting on YouTube, and the more you watch something on YouTube, you know, the algorithm's going to bring you more and more videos of that. So I get different interviews and you know, highlights of matches or whatever. And I think I had Netflix a few years before that, and they used to have some compilation wrestling. Um, I don't know if they were like DVDs or something that were put on there, but like shows basically. And I watched a few of those and seen some matches I had never seen, and I'd seen how the product had changed, and the matches blew my mind from how they just like so fast paced now, you know, and it's like bang bang bang, you know what I mean? Like it's just move after move. And but it got me back into it. I was like, oh my god, I gotta watch this more. And what happened was I got Hulu, and on Hulu they had like Raw, SmackDown, Superstars, Main Event, NXT, and dude, I have OCD. I've had obsessive compulsive disorder since I was 2 years old. So I knew once I found that and I was going to get back into it, I got to go as far back as I can and watch every single episode. And that's exactly what I did. But you can only go as far back. Yeah, I know it took a lot of time. As far back as I could go was 2014.
Okay.
So it started the first show 2014 for Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and those other programs. And I would just slowly watch everything. And I didn't have the WWE network, so I didn't get to see any pay-per-views, but I was catching up on storylines. I was seeing who the new superstars were. I was finding out about other promotions when I'd go online. And eventually, when I got caught up, I had to get the network because
Yeah.
I wanted to stay um what you call it, like I wanted to stay up with the, you know, with the product, and I wanted to watch the pay-per-views when it was time to, and see uh you know, rivalries blow off or whatever, or new storylines start. And so I love that. But I think it took me about a year and a half to watch all those shows: 2014, 2015, 2016. I think it was in 2017 when I was finally caught up.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, I've been watching it ever since. And you know, I go back and forth with some. I try to keep up with all the promotions I can, the ones that I'm into anyways, but there's so much out there. It's hard to. I mean, you know, I
Yeah.
got family now, you know, things have changed since then, and things have definitely changed for the better. But it's hard to stay up with all the wrestling that's out
Yeah. Yeah, it is, dude. I mean, I think it's really really crazy all of the promotions that are out there. I mean, like if you I mean, I know that, you know, WWE now owns WCW and ECW, but
there.
they were still prominent, you know.
Yeah.
And then you had TNA in 2008 when
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan was there with AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Abyss, and
Yeah.
Christian went there, you know, at one point. And then I think in 2010 they had Jeff Hardy, and you
Yeah.
know, just amazing shit. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
you like Major League Wrestling, MLW in Brooklyn. You
Yeah.
know, that's a really freaking good promotion because I love how they have it where everybody is classified by their, I guess, how they fight. Like somebody is a technician, somebody is a submissionist,
Mhm.
somebody is, you know, a
Like
powerhouse.
a hardcore wrestler or something.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that's just a really interesting aspect. Or
Yeah.
you know, AAA pro wrestling. Like it's just there's so much out there in this world, and that's something that I try to explain to people, is that, like, if you've ever watched a show or a movie and you get so into it, and you get to the final episode or the final scene and you're just pissed because you're like, damn, like that story could have continued.
Yeah.
This is something that is constant. It never ever stops. Every single day you can get news on it and people are talking about it. It's this whole world within our world that is just amazing, that people don't, I guess, necessarily realize, because okay, check this out. To me, a lot of people base an opinion on pro wrestling on what somebody else has told them about pro wrestling, instead of actually watching it, because it was on February 5th when DOA Pro Wrestling came to Independence. I went with this dude named Cody Brown, and it was his first ever pro wrestling show, like, ever.
Oh, wow.
You know? Like, he never really watched pro wrestling. He just heard about it, and then saw it was something, was like, I'm buying tickets, I'm going, He was telling me, like, dude, this is the shit.
Exactly, right?
Yeah. It's so awesome, but it's like he actually went out of his way to experience it himself, instead of just going with the casual freaking arguments about pro wrestling.
No, and that's awesome, man. And it turned out that he liked it a lot. That's really cool. You're exactly right. When I will talk to people about it and they're not into it, sometimes they'll roll their eyes, sometimes they'll be old fans, you know what I mean? But it's really something that, like you said, it never stops, and that's a good way to put it. Like you have a favorite TV show or something, or a favorite movie that you get into. It's just like that, It's just, and that's what I love about it is, I'm a sports guy. I'll watch baseball, basketball, football. Sometimes I'll watch hockey, but wrestling to me is my favorite because it's so, I don't know, man. Yeah, it's like a world within a world. It's really cool how they take things, like a little bit of everything, you know what I mean? And you can see where the influences come from most of the time. Sometimes, you'll learn about things, you're like, oh wow, okay, that's how they got that idea. But I mean, when we get into some stuff that we're going to talk about, you can see where certain influences came from, and how some gimmicks or storylines will be straight ripoffs. That original, you know what I mean? Some promotions will take from other promotions, but in the end, it's just so much fun to follow along with. And for people who don't like it, or for people who don't get it, I got no time for you, because it's my time where I can watch more wrestling,
Yeah. Well, all right, man. Well, let's talk about this, bro. What is your favorite match of all time?
Oh gosh, yeah. See, when we talked earlier and we were talking about rivalries, that took me forever to figure out, and I mean, just to narrow it down to one is so hard, because there's so many. There's great rivalries, there's great matches, there's great wrestlers out there.
Okay, hold on. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
What would be the number one match that you would recommend to somebody who doesn't watch pro wrestling?
Oh man, that's a good question. Gosh.
You know what I would probably tell him?
What?
I would probably recommend Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker.
That's what came to my mind, dude. That literally came to my mind. Yeah. Those two matches they had in WrestleMania 25 and 26. When I got back into it and I watched those matches, I couldn't believe how great they were. They were instantly on my top list of favorite matches of all time. They're just freaking awesome. And when we talk about favorite matches, I think one of my first favorite matches, And as I've gotten older, I mean, things change. You see more, you learn more. Was one of my first favorites was one of, I think it was the first WrestleMania I actually got to watch live, which was WrestleMania 12 in 1996, and the Iron Man match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. That match gave me a whole new respect for technical wrestling, and I mean, I think I was 7 when I watched it, but it was so different, and I remember being like, how are they going to do this? You know what I mean? And we know the rules of an Iron Man match. You know, most pinfalls or submissions you can get within that hour. That's who your winner is. This one went the full time. I mean, it was the first one ever done. 60-minute match. You know, went the full. Or it was over 60 minutes because it had to go into sudden death overtime. And Shawn Michaels ended up winning. The boyhood dream finally came true. That was awesome to see. But it was two of my favorite wrestlers of all time having a killer match, and I could say for the time it was great. You know, another one that crosses my mind that I used to rewind so much that the video got messed up because I would tape. I had a friend who lived a couple next doors down, and he would tape the pay-per-views for me. So when I got King of the Ring 1998 on the Hell in a Cell match between Mankind and The Undertaker, that match was so insane to me because I would buy wrestling magazines and see glimpses of hardcore matches, and I'd see some ECW here, but I didn't really know about it. So when I seen that and how crazy it got, I could not stop watching that match. That part where Undertaker threw Mankind off the top of the cell was insane, dude. It's still to this day. It is. It's great, man. So those two come to mind, you know, for some of my favorite matches. But yeah, this one I definitely want to explore more and do more research into because there's some great matches out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably say Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 is the greatest performance match of all time. And then WrestleMania 26 has to be like the most biggest rivalry to me, in my opinion, that they've had. Because if you look at how much people believed in Shawn Michaels after that match, everybody was like, why not have Shawn Michaels beat The Undertaker and be the one to end the streak? You know what I mean?
Right?
Like, it would have been absolutely perfect because he could have been like, I went and retired Ric Flair at, or no, he faced John Cena for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 23, retired Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24, fought The Undertaker, came this close, and then WrestleMania 26, the streak was done. That would have been fucking amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, he's Mr. WrestleMania for a reason, dude. All his WrestleMania matches are great. He's definitely one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I mean, I think Ric Flair puts him as the best wrestler of all time. And when I heard him talk about why that was, is because a lot of people think Ric Flair is the greatest wrestler of all time, and he definitely is one of them. But Ric Flair is a natural heel. And when they asked him who they thought the greatest was of all time, he said Shawn Michaels because he's just as good as a heel as he is a babyface. I mean, you fall in love with this guy. You believe him. You want him to win. He the way he sells is amazing. You think he's gonna die every match. You know what I mean,
dude?
But yeah, no. One of my another favorite of mine, WrestleMania 10, the ladder match with Razor Ramon. That's my favorite wrestler of all time, dude. Scott Hall. So it's such it was so innovative back then. It wasn't the first ladder match, but it was definitely, I think, the first one that it put ladder matches on the map. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that splash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Dude, check this out. So it was reported. So you know how in November or October of 2005, how Eddie Guerrero had tragically passed away, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was in WWE's plans that at WrestleMania 22, had Eddie Guerrero not died, we would have gotten Eddie Guerrero versus Shawn Michaels in a singles match.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, dude. That would have been
Talk about dream matches.
Yeah, that probably would have been like up in the like greatest of all time matches right there if they had actually been able to perform it. Just
For
freaking
sure.
amazing, dude.
I mean, Eddie Guerrero was amazing. He had so many good matches coming from a wrestling family. It was in his blood, you know what I mean? And there's the classic matches he'd have with Rey Mysterio in WCW with Chris Jericho and the whole cruiserweight division they had over there. Um, yeah, great matches, man. I can't. That would have, yeah, that would have been amazing, dude. That
Yeah,
that would
dude.
have been real sick.
It actually took if you go onto Peacock and watch some Rey Mysterio documentary. I forgot exactly which show it was on, but he actually goes and visits Eddie Guerrero's gravesite. And
Oh,
it happened in 2019. He waited 14 years after his death before he could actually go and
oh,
see his graveyard, you know?
yeah,
And he
oh,
just started just obviously just breaking down, you
yeah,
know? But like that's just crazy that like he just couldn't bring himself to do it. You know what I mean? Because like
yeah. But from how close they were and being brothers, man. Yeah, I know. Well, shit. If you want to get a little controversial, real quick, let's.
go ahead, bro.
I want to pose a question out there. Um, if Eddie Guerrero doesn't die, say he's alive to this day, okay?
Oh, I know where this is going.
You know where this is going? Does the horrible Chris Benoit tragedy happen? Does
I
it
don't.
happen?
I don't think so, bro. Because if you go and you watch Chris Van Vliet's a fucking badass.
Oh hell yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Van Vliet actually did a podcast with Chris Benoit's son.
Oh cool, yeah. David Benoit, yeah.
And he even said himself that as soon as Eddie died, he saw just this switch with his dad. Like
Yeah.
it screwed with him so much. And obviously, you know, Chris Benoit took so many chair shots to the head that doctors were saying that he didn't have the mind of like a 40-year-old. He had the mind of like a 90-year-old who
Yeah.
was going through like, you know, like
Dementia and just
yeah,
going
you know,
losing your mind. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it's
So
like
sad, dude.
yeah, as soon as I watched that interview and his son said that, you know, everything is okay, you know what I mean? Like I kind of like stopped hating him because like I would not watch any of his matches after that happened. I would
Oh
just
really?
through it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not supporting you. I'm not watching your shit. Nothing.
Yeah, no, for
You
sure.
know.
Yeah.
But as soon as his son, you know, came out and talked about it and was like, no, you know, everything is okay. Like I'm okay to know that, you know, that shit happened and I'm over it. So wrestling
Yeah.
fans need to get over it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, gosh, yeah, we can't go back in time. No one can ever make light of what happened. It's the worst thing that could happen. And I just like to remember him and Nancy for the performers that they were, you know. Rest in peace, all three of them. But you go back and watch. I think Nancy Benoit started in. I think she was in Glow. I don't know. I'll have to check on that. But in like Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, I think
mhm.
she started out in that. But I know she did ECW. I watched a lot of her early stuff in ECW. She's such a badass, dude. She was such a bad chick. Super awesome. And Benoit has some of my favorite matches, dude. I mean, he was such a good wrestler that
Yeah.
like I mean, I went to Super Bowl 7 at the Cow Palace in San Francisco and I got to watch him versus Kevin Sullivan in I think it was like a grudge match or something, but they went everywhere fighting through that arena. They ended up in the men's bathroom. They were fighting. This little kid, like I was like 8, I think 8 years old. I was like, oh my god, I just went to the bathroom. Like, why can't I still be there right now? Because they were
Yeah.
just chopping each other so hard, so crazy, and you know the fans were all into it and stuff. And Benoit and Kevin Sullivan had some pretty killer matches, man, in WCW, and it just sucks, dude. That whole situation is horrible. I can't imagine being a member of the family or knowing them personally. You know what I mean? Because yeah, it's just tragic. It's tragic.
Yeah, I mean, here's the question though, and people can, shoot all they want. This is our opinion. This is our platform, so we're just gonna talk about it, man. Like, do you think that he deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame?
I think she does.
Yeah.
You know, there's we could step outside of wrestling for a sec and look at art in general and talk about music and acting, film, um, but tie in wrestling with it. And it's really hard when someone does something as horrible as that, or something else horrible, and
Hmm.
and be such a great artist at one thing, but also have a shitty uh something horrible else in their life. You know what I mean? Like, who
Yeah.
comes to my mind right away is like Michael Jackson. Like, if that shit's real, what he did, he's got some killer music out there. He's got some good songs. But if he also did what they claim he did, what those dudes said he did, it's hard to listen to his music and not think of that. So
Yeah.
so I could totally see why people, you know, um can't watch Chris Benoit matches because of what happened. And I will say this, dude, that happened during the time when I wasn't watching wrestling and I wasn't paying so close attention. If I was, I'd probably feel a little bit different about it. But when I got back into it, I remember seeing how he was basically like erased, and how they don't mention it, they don't say his name, and they got good reason. I mean, you do something as bad as that, it trumps your legacy, and it's almost what you're exclusively remembered for. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, but Hall of Fame, man, that's yeah. I don't know, man. I
Yeah,
but
it definitely would be very, very bad PR for WWE.
yeah, they wouldn't. I don't think they could. But why not like Nancy? You know what I mean? I mean, she had a great career. She was great at something that doesn't exist as much as it used to, and that's the manager, a valet. You know what I mean? They still have them out there, but I don't think it's as prominent as it was in the early, like, 70s, 80s, 90s of wrestling, because if you were that, you wouldn't really have matches. You know what I mean? Your main focus was uh building up the person you managed or whatever. I thought she did a great job at that. And I I I don't think one horrible thing someone does should link, I mean, her into it just because she was a victim of it, and
Yeah.
have her whole career kind of be erased too from it, like that sucks, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that in the Chris Van Vliet video with him, I forgot his Chris Benoit's son's name.
David.
David Benoit. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
David Benoit. He was talking about how he wants to wrestle, and that
Yeah.
he has actually all of his dad's old gear and everything. And like, could you imagine like holding that stuff and
Oh,
like, you,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
That
Like, dude,
that'd be crazy. Yeah. No, I'd love to see it, man.
yeah.
I would love to see something good, or what could potentially be great, come out of something so tragic and
Hmm.
such a sad situation. I would love to see something good, come out on the other end of that, because I mean, but what he does, he shouldn't be tied to what the actions his father took. You know what I mean? I mean,
Hmm.
there's some crappy things that wrestlers have done during, I mean, watch like Dark Side of the Ring, dude, and you learn all about horrible things that wrestlers have done throughout their career when they're not in the ring, and it makes you look at them differently. You can't help but not to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing with other, artists of music or movie, sports athletes. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's yeah, dude, it's crazy. We could definitely. I think we should come back to this one and talk about it again. You know what I mean? Because there's some
Yeah.
other shit out there, um, like some really fucked up shit that I don't think a lot of people know about. That
Oh yes. I
you know
mean,
what I mean?
like Ashley 2007.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People
What's up with
don't
that?
know about that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And that is going to be something that we are going to discuss on a future episode. But
definitely.
let's get out of
I know,
this
right? What the
for
fuck?
a second. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's talk about WrestleMania this year, bro.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel about WrestleMania season? How's it going so far?
I think it's going great. I'm super excited, just like I always am. I was really bummed out at the Royal Rumble to see the bloodline kind of end, or at least end on the end in the way it did. I'm such a big fan. I've always been a big fan of Sami Zayn. I've always been a big fan of Roman Reigns. I've
Hmm.
always been a big fan of the Usos. I've loved the whole bloodline thing they got going on. Um, so I mean, I wanted it to last forever, but obviously nothing lasts forever in wrestling. So everything has to come to an end. Now, this is WrestleMania 39, right?
Yeah.
So years ago, I can't remember what WrestleMania was. It was probably like 32, 33 maybe, I think. And I was watching some highlights of some Sami Zayn matches, and I watched him win the NXT title in NXT, and it was so cool because he's beloved by he has so many fans and everyone was happy to see him win. Um, so I read a comment, and I don't know like who said it or anything, but they go, "Oh man, can you imagine in the future Sami Zayn winning the world title at like WrestleMania 40 and the whole crowd go as crazy as the NXT family was when he won
Mhm.
that title?" And I was,
Yeah.
man, that is so cool. That would be so cool, but I could just never see it happening. Now, fast forward to today and what we have going on with Sammy versus Roman at Elimination Chamber coming up on Saturday in Montreal. Sammy's going to be in his hometown. We know how they always have wrestlers lose big matches in their hometown for some reason. I don't know what the fuck's up
Mhm.
with that, but I'd love to see him win. I'd love to see him as champ, but I'd also love to see Cody be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I want to see that match too. So, um, yeah, dude, I think it's going good. I think this is going to be awesome. I love all the matches that they're getting. The Elimination Chamber is going to be pretty sick, and
Mhm.
I know it's going to it might shake up a few things for WrestleMania. But I was also listening to Cornette, the Jim Cornette Experience, and I think his co-host Brian Last was saying, "Are we going to see on night one The Rock versus Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns beat The Rock, and then on night two see Roman Reigns versus Cody, and have Cody win the title?" I mean, I think that'd be pretty fitting because you have Roman Reigns beat The Rock. Rock's not a everyday wrestler anymore. He hasn't been for a long time, but he's solidified his legacy and he's one of the greatest of all time. If Roman could beat him, his cousin, if he could do that, I think Roman would do. I think he'd like solidify his legacy as one of the greatest of all time. And then for the next night to drop the title to Cody, who I think is the only person who would be right for that right now. I think would just be really fitting and awesome. And I mean, I've been hearing things for a while that Roman is gonna take a step back. I mean, he's already not there every week. So is he gonna if he loses, is he gonna be gone for a while? Or you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
is he just gonna go to Hollywood? What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Here's a question. Okay, so I totally understand like what you're saying about night one and night two.
Mm.
You know how WWE, they love to do things in like the whole numbers,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, I
yeah.
could yeah, I could see it. And check this out. This is just like theoretical. Imagine if Cody Rhodes wins the WWE Universal Championship at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns in the main event.
Mhm.
And then on the night after WrestleMania, The Rock comes out and challenges Roman Reigns and almost replicates what they did for WrestleMania 28 against John Cena and The Rock,
Oh
and
yeah,
have
yeah,
WrestleMania 40's main event already set for a
yeah.
year
You're,
in
yeah,
advance. Then The Rock can go to Hollywood, do the rest of his shit for the rest of the year,
yeah.
and then he can have it where when he's talking to his coordinator or whoever manages him,
Mhm.
he can coordinate it with them and say, "Hey, this is already set in stone for next year.
Yeah,
I'm going to be wrestling, so I cannot take any bookings from January to April to get in ring shape and
yeah,
ready, get all the rust off and all of that shit." You
yeah.
know, and
I,
that's one thing that I'm realizing with this WrestleMania season is that this WrestleMania season is really good. We're going to get a lot of really good matches at WrestleMania, but they're also setting things up for a year-long build going into WrestleMania 40.
yeah,
Because, like, you know, we're most likely going to get Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins. Like, they've been bickering back and forth.
yeah. That's what I think too. Yeah.
Yeah, but Logan Paul on his Impulsive podcast back in December was talking about fighting John Cena at WrestleMania, but he's actually going to be booked with Seth Rollins. Now, WWE would not allow him to go out, whether it's on his podcast or not, or and even tease a match without it being somewhat in the talks, in the works. You know what I'm
Okay. Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So, to the fact that we are not getting it this year, I could see WWE saving that for WrestleMania 40. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying? Or like saving Gunther and Brock Lesnar. So like
Oh,
imagine those three matches at WrestleMania 40. You got Roman Reigns versus The Rock. You got Logan Paul versus um fucking damn. I like just said it. I
oh,
had a brain fart.
The Rock, right? Roman Reigns, The Rock.
Logan Paul versus John Cena. There you go.
Oh yeah, Logan Paul versus John Cena. Yeah.
You have Gunther versus Brock Lesnar. Like those are three major matches that they could build over the next year, and that's just something that I'm just coordinating with this year's WrestleMania.
You know where WrestleMania 40 is going to be at?
Philadelphia.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, dude. I could yeah, no, you're right about that. They put things out there to see the response it gets. And if it gets a big enough response, then they'll want to do something with it. That would be crazy. Logan Paul versus John Cena. Yeah, dude, this is gonna be crazy. What kind of sucks right now is my baby's waking up, and I thought she's
Okay.
gonna be asleep for a little bit longer, but so I gotta cut this short with
Okay.
you. We'll do some editing, brother, and we're gonna do this again. I want to talk about more topics. This is so much fun,
Oh yeah.
and when you lose track of time, you're having a good time, right?
Yeah. All right, you guys. So thank you guys so very much for joining us on Interesting Podcast. We got to go because we're parents, man. That's what we got to do. We will catch you guys later with more content. Catch you guys later.
Peace.
Peace.
Awesome, bro. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
dude. Well, yeah, dude. I'll definitely what you call it. I'll do my research or whatever I need to do. Yeah, shoot me some topic ideas, and I'll try to make this as regular as I can because this is a lot of fun, dude.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. So as soon as this recording is done, I'll text you my email.
Text me your email, and I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Okay. If it doesn't work through Gmail, they'll ask you to because you know how it will have like the little notification to add in like a file. Well, they have like the Google Drive thing, and you can send it over Google Drive if it's over like a gigabyte or something.
Oh, okay. All
yeah.
Right. Cool. All right. I'll check it out. I'll figure it out, bro. Thank you, man.
I'll fucking catch you later, man.
All right, homie. Peace. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man.
Bye.
Bye.